Detroit style pizza. If you're a fan like I am, you immediately have thoughts of ribbons of sauce on the top, of course, thick, chewy crust that's still airy on the inside but nice and crisp on the outside, and of course, the caramelized ring of cheese around the outside of the edge. That nice burnt caramely texture, who could forget it? But if you're gluten-free, your thoughts may not be as rosy as mine are about Detroit style pizza. Gluten-free crust is thin, it's dense, it's gritty. It just doesn't hold up to the Detroit style of pizza. Or you've been to a restaurant where they top the pizza without par baking it first, and it just doesn't get a chance to rise or complete its cooking process with all those heavy ingredients on it. My name's Rich with GF Explorers, and today we're going to change your perception about gluten-free pizza. So welcome to your gluten-free Detroit style pizza cooking tutorial. If you're here from our website because you've already bought our Detroit style pizza kit, thanks so much for your purchase and thanks for your support. If you found us on YouTube and you're wondering what our kit's all about, you can check it out at gfexplorers.com and buy it now. So let's get started. The most important part of a traditional, really good Detroit style pizza is the pan. Detroit style pizza invented in roughly the 40s. The pans were originally used in the automotive factories for car parts of all things. And growing up in Detroit, we were so fortunate to have so many great types of pizza. I grew up on Little Caesars, on Domino's Pizza, and I didn't really discover Detroit style pizza until, I don't know, I was about 7 or 8 years old. And I'm gonna wax poetic here for a moment, but I don't know if any of you remember the show called Bowling for Dollars. And Bowling for Dollars was a bowling show where people won various gifts, and they had a pen pal program. And my mom would always send cards in all the time, and you won whatever the guest on the show won. And one day, our family won dinner for 10 at the original Buddy's Pizza. And I remember sitting down at that restaurant for the first time, being a Little Caesars and Domino's guy, and when they put this square pan in front of me, I remember thinking, what the heck is this? This is not pizza. And then I tried it. And I understood, and I was a fan ever since. So the pan. When you get our kit, you're gonna get a pan. Well, you're gonna get your 20 ounces of flour mix, but your pan's gonna look like this. These are high-strength carbon steel pans meant to be seasoned. So before you attempt to make your Detroit-style pizza, you've gotta season the pan. And quite simply, what you do is you wash the pan off to get most of the oils off the pan. You put it in a 400-degree oven for about 20 minutes. That's the first step of the process. What that's gonna do is boil off the industrial oils that are on the pan. You also want the pan to be completely dry. You do not want to season a pan that has wetness or moisture on it. Process is to coat the pan very lightly with your choice of oil: olive oil, canola oil, sunflower oil. You don't want any pooling in the pan because that will create sticky parts that will cause your crust to stick. You'll put that back in that 400-degree oven for about another 30 minutes or so. And the first time you season your pan, it's gonna look something like this. And the first time you cook your pizza, it may stick a little bit, but trust me, the more you use this pan, the better it's gonna get. And ultimately what you end up with is something like this. This pan has been used about a half dozen times, about 8 times or so. And once you get a good season on it, your pizza will literally slide right out of the pan. Once your pan's seasoned and you're ready.
Hi, I'm Victoria, and I am going to help you with measuring and mixing for the pizza crust for the Detroit style pizza. If you've watched our other pizza crust baking tutorial and you already got your mixing down, then you can fast forward to the fun part where you start making Detroit style pizza. Not that this isn't fun, but you know, that's going to be just a little bit more fun. And if you haven't, then stick around here. I'm going to show you how to do this. So the first thing you're going to want to do before anything else is go preheat your oven to 400 if you haven't done that already. And then the next thing is to get all of the ingredients that you're going to need. Put your mise en place, or get everything in its place, so that in the middle of this process, you're not running to the pantry or the refrigerator to grab something. You have everything that you need. So I've got my 3 wet ingredients: the vinegar, the oil, and the egg whites. I've got the yeast, and I also have my water and my measuring cup for the water and the yeast. So the first thing we're going to do is measure out the yeast. I have a little bowl. I've put it on the scale that I have set to grams, and I'm turring it, which basically means clearing it, so I don't have the weight of the bowl that's going to calculate into what I'm putting in the bowl. So I need 8 grams of yeast, so I'm spooning that out now. I'm there. Okay, so I've got my yeast, And now I have my water. I use carbonated water made by the Soda Stream. If you don't have a Soda Stream, you can go to the store and buy carbonated water. And if you do that, you're going to want to heat it up in the microwave. Your goal is 110 degrees. You don't want to go much over that or much lower. I'd say about a 2 to 3 degree difference. And so my water is temped and ready to go. And I'm going to pour 1.75 cups of water into my measuring bowl. And then I'm going to grab my most amazing, cute little whisk here and start whisking the water as I put the yeast in. So I've poured the yeast in, I'm whisking and whisking till I don't see the yeast anymore. I just see bubbles. And that's what you want. You want to see bubbles. If you don't see bubbles, then something is wrong with your yeast or your water wasn't hot enough. Your yeast can go bad, so make sure you're using fresh yeast. Well, I'm going to set this aside and let it activate and do more bubbly stuff while I measure out the wet ingredients that are going into this mix. The bag of flour is already in the mixer, so we've got that taken care of. So I'm going to start with my oil, which is 45 grams. And this is what I'm going to call an expert measuring move. So if you do not feel comfortable pouring, measuring, tearing, use 3 vessels, 3 bowls so that you don't make any mistake. After you've done this a while, you're just going to want to use 1 bowl because you're not going to want to wash the other 2. So I am putting in 45 grams of sunflower oil right there. If you go over just a smidgen, that's fine. I don't want this to be a stressful event. 1 or 2 grams is not a big deal. Okay, so I have the sunflower oil in, and now I'm going to tare it, zero it out, and put in 136 grams of egg whites. And again, if you were using 3 bowls, you just bring another bowl over here and fill that up. But as you do that, like I said, if you do this more, you'll get to the 1 bowl method. Okay, 136 grams. And now I'm going to do the vinegar, which is a very small amount at 7 grams. So if you are using the 3 bowl method, the 1 bowl method, this could be where it all goes bad if you're not real careful, because 7 grams isn't much. And again, if you go over to like 8 grams, your crust isn't going to taste like vinegar. You're going to be perfectly fine. So I have my wet, I have my water, and I have my flour blend here. And so now we're going to mix. I'm going to put the paddle on. I'm going to raise the bowl up. If you've watched our videos, you'll know that I have an issue with this. But it's up now. I've got it raised. I've got it on 1. Just kind of mixing up the flour blend a little bit. And now I'm going to pour in my egg, oil, vinegar mixture. Try to get as much as I can out of that bowl. I'm quite thrifty like that. Put that aside. And now I'm going to pour the entire contents of the measuring bowl with the yeast and water mixture in here. And once you see that the flour has started to absorb the moisture, you can turn it up. If you turn it up before then, you will probably have a terrible wet mess, so don't do that. So I'm going up to 2, and now I'm going to take it up to 4 to 5, depending on your mixer, for 3 minutes. Now I'm going to take it off of the mixer, twist off the paddle. And so the question you probably have is, what should your dough look like? Well, it should look like frosting, really. It should be very smooth, very silky looking. And if you haven't worked with this dough before, I'm going to tell you it's very sticky. So you see that I'm putting my hand in some hot water as I take the dough off of the paddle, because we want to keep as much dough as we can. And make sure that your dough looks silky and like frosting. And you can tell it's not a batter and it's not a dough. It's somewhere in between. It's not a batter because it's not like running off my hands. So that's the consistency that you are looking for. So before you put it on the stove for its 20-minute rise period, you're going to want to scoop down the sides. So I took a spatula, dipped it in a little water so I don't get as much stickage, if that's a word. And so I'm just scraping the sides. You don't have to make it anything fabulous or a certain type of pile. It's just a pile of dough. You just don't want the side of the bowl to have dough on it. And then after that, we are going to put some plastic wrap over the top. And then it is going to go to the top of the oven for 20 minutes. gluten-free and you're watching this and you heard mention of all that ooey gooey caramelized cheese, you're probably thinking exactly what I'm thinking. Well, geez, I can't eat that. I'm dairy-free. But I'm here to tell you, soon you will have a version for yourself. So keep your eyes open for that video. It'll be coming, I'd say, pretty darn soon.
All right, our dough has been resting on top of the oven for 20 minutes. It's risen. It's not necessarily doubled, but we've got a nice little rise on it. Don't worry, we're going to rise it again when it's in the pan. So let's get started. So the dough mix that you bought is going to yield, if you watch our other tutorials, is going to yield 4 10-ounce round pizzas. But on the Detroit style, you're going to get 2 8x10 Detroit style pizzas out of the dough mix. And it leaves just enough room for about a half dozen garlic knots. And I'm going to show you how to make those as well. The first thing we're going to do, as Victoria mentioned in the mixing portion, the dough is quite sticky. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to spray our bowl. And I'm going to spray my scoop. You'll notice I also have a bowl of water to keep my hands wet when we're working with the dough. So each Detroit pan is going to take 380 grams of dough, which is about 13 and a half, 14 ounces. So at about 280. And I'm at about 382, and I'm going to go with that. So the next thing I almost forgot we need to do is liberally coat both pans with olive oil. You'll want to get a good amount in there. And unlike the seasoning process where we mentioned you don't want any pools of oil in there, if you have a little bit of pooling here and there, it's okay. Now keep in mind, the reason I have a brush is we want to get up the sides of the pan as well too, because that's going to help with the caramelization of our cheese. So just give it a nice brush. And you can see here that I've got my pan that we've only used once, and then I've got my nicely seasoned pan that we've used about a half dozen times. So we're going to get this one seasoning a little bit better. So we're going to get all the sides of the bowl, or the pan, up the sides all the way to the top. And now we're going to get our dough into the pan. And let's measure out the other 380 grams for our other pizza. And again, that's about 385. I'm going to take that as well. I'm not going to be that picky about it. And okay, we'll put our scale to the side. Let's move these up in here to the center so you can see them nice and clear. Now we're going to form our dough. So what we want to do is keep your hands really, really wet so it's not sticking to your hands. We want to spread the dough to all corners of the pan. And again, I like to use my fingertips on this. So again, we're just spreading out to reach all corners of the pan. And you can see I'm also using the back of my hand to kind of press the dough down as well. And you can kind of see the olive oil coming up the sides here. That's okay. That's just going to lead to more caramelization on our cheese. So once you get your dough to all corners of the pan, now we're going to want to level it out. So we have a good even amount of dough spread out among the entire pan. Again, fingertips. My best tip here is we don't want a smooth, flat crust. So your fingers are going to create nice little dimples in the crust, which are going to be great little pockets for cheese. So don't worry about trying to get a flat crust. Your main goal here is to make sure your dough is evenly distributed throughout your pan. And you can kind of see the olive oil coming up the sides once again. So this looks pretty good. And you can see that's not flat. There's a lot of dimples in there. Then we'll go over here to this one, and you can see I'm going to my water bowl multiple times because, again, if the dough starts sticking to your fingers, make sure you hit that water. Again, the back of the hand is great for pressing the dough out to hit those corners. And once we do that, we'll get in there with our fingers and level the dough out. Again, not worrying about the dimples, but just make sure we got even dough distribution. Now what I like to do is hit the top of the dough with just a little bit of olive oil. Now our two pans are going to get covered with saran wrap, and then they're going to go back on top of the oven, and we're going to let these proof for about 20 to 25 minutes. So our two Detroit pans are on the oven. They're starting their proofing process. You can see we've got a little bit of dough left in this bowl, and we don't want to waste that. So what we discovered is garlic knots. And you don't have to be fancy. You don't have to try and form anything fantastic. All I do is take a small handful of dough and just kind of make it up into a ball and drop it on a greased cookie sheet. You can make these any size you want to make them. Again, they don't have to be fancy. I've got little fingers standing up here. You just kind of drop it on the cookie sheet. And I said we were going to get about a half dozen out earlier. It looks like we're going to get 5 out, which is okay with me. And there you have it. So just take these, set them on top of the oven next to your Detroit pans. They probably only need to proof for about 10 minutes or so. So you can have these cooked and done and enjoy these while you're waiting for the rise on your Detroit style pizzas. Now, after the Detroit pizza pans rise for 20 minutes, we're going to put them in the oven at 420 degrees for about 20 minutes for our par bake. So we won't show you that part. We'll show you those when they come out of the oven and we're ready to top and make a pizza. And we're going to make my favorite pizza, classic pepperoni with 2 different styles of pepperoni on it. So let's let those pizzas rise and then we'll get back to the fun part, which is making the pizza. We rested our dough 20 minutes in the pan and then we went into the oven. Earlier I said 425, it actually should be 400 for 20 minutes. And you can see we've got 2 beautiful par-baked deep dish style crusts that are just starting to turn brown on the edges, but we don't really have a lot of brown. That's exactly what you're looking for. Now, what I'd like to do, we've got 2 crusts, we're gonna make 1, but what I like to do with the other one is get it out of the pan, and this is our one that's only been used once, so we might get a little bit of sticking into that pan. We did get a little stickage, if that's a word, in the center, but for the most part, it's gonna lift right out. Let's get rid of that pan. And let's take a look under the hood. So we got really nice browning there. That's exactly what we're looking for. Now, because of the moisture in the crust, the egg whites are in there and the amount of water in there, this will bake again a second time, no problem, and you won't have any issues. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna let this one completely cool down, then we're gonna put it in a gallon Ziploc bag, freeze it, and save it for another day. When you're ready to make a Detroit style pizza, you can pull this out of the freezer, set it back down into your pan, even frozen if you want, and top it and make another pizza. So let's get this one out of the way and let's make it. All right, so now we're using our pan that's really, really well seasoned. And you can see here that there's no sticking in the pan at all. You can see the crust moving around in there. The other thing I want you to notice is that the crust has shrunk up a little bit. And that's where we're gonna put some cheese down in the sides to get that extra crispy crust around the outside edge of this pizza. Now let's talk about our ingredients for our classic pepperoni pizza. We're gonna start over here with pepperonis. I like to do pepperoni 2 ways. My brand is Boar's Head and I have 2 different styles here. I've got the big, round, thinly sandwich sliced pepperoni. And then I like to buy the whole stick and slice my own. And you can see I slice it fairly thick because I like that cupping style that gets the little pool of grease in the middle of the pepperoni. So for the cheese, I don't have access to Wisconsin brick cheese, which is traditional for the Detroit style. I'm using a low moisture mozzarella, but my biggest suggestion for you is always shred from a whole block of cheese. Don't buy the pre-shredded cheese. It has a coating on it that we just don't like. So shred your cheese as you need it. Next, let's talk about the sauce. This is our homemade sauce. The recipe is on our site, gfexplorers.com. I'll put the recipe down in the description so you have it. It's a quick and easy sauce. One thing to note about our sauce, it is a no-bake sauce. So there is some question in the Detroit market. The sauce, of course, always goes on top of your pizza. But the question and the argument is, do we put the sauce on when we bake or do we wait till the pizza comes out of the oven and then top it afterward? And what I'm here to tell you is you can do what's right for you, but because our sauce is a no-bake sauce, we're gonna put it on our pizza and bake it in the oven. And finally, I like to do a little Italian seasoning. And possibly another point of contention is a little red hot chili flake. I like to put mine on before we cook, so it kind of melds into the cheese as the cheese starts to get ooey gooey. The pepper flakes kind of incorporate into the cheese. A lot of people put theirs on after the pizza comes out of the oven. Again, the choice is yours. There's no rules here. You can do the things you want to do. Okay, so let's get started. I'm gonna do something really unique with this first layer of pepperoni. We're gonna put it underneath the cheese. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my sandwich cut pepperoni and I'm gonna layer them onto the pizza about 4 wide, 4 long and 2 wide, so about 8 slices of the pepperoni. Gonna kind of layer it on there. Next, we're gonna put our cheese. Let's get this brick of cheese out of our way. And I like to start with creating our edge. As I mentioned, our crust, when it baked, it shrunk up just a little bit, so it gave me some room to really work the cheese into the corners. So we're going to start by just getting the cheese on the very edge of the pizza. And don't be shy with the cheese. In an 8x10 pizza, there's approximately 6 to 8 ounces of cheese on there. But again, I'm not shy with it, and we're also not measuring it. So next, we're going to kind of work our cheese down into the corners. This corner doesn't quite seem to have enough cheese, so we're going to get a little more on there. And again, we want the cheese down the sides so we get as much caramelization as possible. And that way people don't have to fight over the corners, over the corner pizza slices to get the most caramelized cheese. It's going to be all throughout there. Okay, I feel pretty comfortable that we've got enough cheese around the sides, so now we're going to cover up the center. And we're just going to give that a nice coating so we completely cover all of that underlayer of pepperoni. That looks pretty good. Now we're going to hit it with just a little bit of Italian seasoning for some flavor. And then, as I mentioned before, I like to get my red pepper flakes kind of incorporated and melted into my cheese, so I'm going to go ahead and put that on now. Next, we're going to put on our ribbons of tomato sauce. So one of the things that makes Detroit style unique is you don't coat the entire pizza with sauce. People either put stripes down or just circles on what would be every slice, and we're going to get 6 slices of pizza out of this one. But I like to do a strip down each side. So we'll mix our tomato sauce up, and we'll just get one strip there, about 1 inch thick. And then we're going to put a stripe of sauce down this next side. Go all the way down the length of the pizza. There we go. And you can do more or less according to your taste. Now we're going to do the hand-cut thick sliced pepperonis. And what I like to do is the area that's not covered by your sauce is go ahead and layer those in there. And again, I'm not measuring. We're not going to be shy with the pepperoni. So we'll layer those right in between our stripes of sauce. And there you have it. We're ready to bake. So classic two-way pepperoni Detroit style pizza. So we're going to put this in the oven at the same 400 degrees for another 20 minutes. And Sherman can't wait till that pepperoni pizza is done. And then it'll come out of the oven and it's time to eat pizza. All right, our pizza is out of the oven. Couple quick tips I want to give you guys is the pizza cooked for 20 minutes at 400 degrees. I didn't have the color on the top that I really wanted, so what I did was I broiled for about 5 more minutes to really, 1, get those pepperonis kind of cupping, and then 2, to get the nice brown edges around the sides. The next tip I want to give you is when this thing comes out of the oven, it's going to look really, really greasy. You've got the olive oil in there, you've got the oil out of the cheese, and of course, don't forget about the pepperoni that was under the cheese that let the oil out as well as it baked. Let your Detroit style pizza sit for 5 to 7 minutes. All of those oils are going to soak up into that crust, just making it that much more better. So let it rest. Trust me, your patience will be rewarded. So now we've used our seasoned pan. Let's see what kind of stickage we get here. So we are going to go along the sides of our pans, scraping that cheese off the side of the pan, and because we don't want it on the pan, we want it on our pizza. Okay, that's pretty good. Now we're going to get underneath it. We got just a little bit of sticking. Okay, here's the advantage of a really, really well-seasoned pan. You get under it, and it just slides right out of the pan. And that's exactly what we're looking for. You can see here we got our nice crispy edges all the way around the pizza. Our top is nicely caramelized, Our pepperonis are slightly cupped. Some of them have that nice little oil pockets in the center. Let's eat some pizza. So I've got my big industrial pizza cutting knife here. We're gonna get 6 pieces of pizza out of this whole pie. So what I'm gonna do is cut it down the middle and then do 2 slices across lengthwise here. So again, we're gonna want probably about that wide each. So we're gonna square it up and cut there and cut this way. And then we're gonna go right down the middle. So we've got 6 really nice equal pieces. And let's take a look and see what we got. Look at that, guys. Beautiful. Nicely cooked. And again, I'm a corner guy. I need maximum edges. So we're gonna give this a try. Very cheesy. Let's grab a napkin. Guys, that pizza is perfectly cooked. The cheese is nice and melty. The crust has soaked up all that additional oil from not only the olive oil in the bottom of the pan, but the pepperoni and the cheese. It's incorporated itself nicely back into the pizza. The edge is just perfect. It's got that nice caramelized flavor that you're looking for in a Detroit-style pizza. Again, the bottom, nicely crispy, not overdone in the least bit, and it's nice and fluffy. So this is, to me, a gluten-free Detroit-style pizza that will rival any Detroit-style pizza you can have anywhere. So I hope this doesn't seem daunting. It's a lot of steps, but trust me, your effort will be rewarded. Use high-quality ingredients. Follow the steps as we've showed them to you. Once you get comfortable with things, you can start to experiment, different toppings, different ways of doing things. If you follow the steps like we've outlined them today, your pizza is gonna turn out exactly like this. And let's not forget, do you remember the dough balls that we had that were left over? We threw them in the oven. I baked them for about 10 minutes and simply put some melted butter on them. This is one of my favorite seasonings. This is the Everything Bagel seasoning. And we'll show you how these turn out. Nice and airy. Not heavy and dense at all. And let's just give these a quick taste. Nicely browned on the bottom as well. Again, delicious. There's no sense in throwing dough away. Those are fantastic. They can go along with your pizza, or they can go on a side dish with a salad or a pasta dish or whatever you want. Well, thanks guys for following me through the whole entire process. You can do this. I believe in you. You can make a pizza that looks and tastes exactly like this tastes today. So again, thanks for visiting. Go to gfexplorers.com. Check out all of our other mixes we have available, other recipes, other ideas for Detroit-style pizzas, and we'll see you next time.